Welcome to the King Street Cinema podcast. This is the December episode, which will be a festive special. If you check out the website of King Street, there's loads of festive Christmassy films, as well as newer releases shown over the month. But this episode, I've got special guest, local musician Chris Asker. He's going to be chatting with me about one of his favourite Christmas movies, or favourite movies, in fact, I think. Muppet Christmas Carol, which will be showing on the screens at King Street for its 30th anniversary. I can't believe that movie's 30 years old. That's unbelievable. And James Rowe from the cinema will be joining me to talk about some of the other films that will be shown, including Rare Exports, one of his favourites. Rare Exports is a film I've not even heard of, to be honest. Looking it up, I really should have done. That's one I'm very much looking forward to seeing. Okay, so we're going to crack straight on, because I'm trying to get this to about an hour's length. We tend to waffle, but when talking about films, that's always fun. And right, I'm going to play you the trailer now for Muppet Christmas Carol, and then I'll be joined by Chris.
Humbug. He was the greediest man alive.
It's Ebenezer Scrooge.
Until the night he met someone extraordinary.
Hello.
The Muppet Christmas Carol.
I'll drink to Mr. Scrooge, even though he is odious, stingy, and badly dressed.
Humbug.
Oh, there goes Mr. Humbug. There goes Mr. Grin.
Do you think it's safe for us to be up here?
They gave a prize for being mean. The winner would be him.
Yes, Mr. Cratchit.
If you please, Mr. Scrooge, the bookkeeping staff would like to have an extra shovel full of coal for the fire.
How would the bookkeepers like to be suddenly
Unemployed!
Heat wave! Oi! This is my island in this
It's Charles Dickens' classic tale, as only the Muppets can tell it.
It's good to be heckling again. It's good to be doing anything again.
Filled with holiday warmth
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat!
and Christmas spirit. Jacob Muppet.
That's scary stuff. Should we be worried about the kids in the audience?
No, it's all right. This is culture.
This is the movie to see, to share, to cherish with someone you love.
Thank you for making me a part of this.
Walt Disney Pictures presents, from Jim Henson Productions, The Muppet Christmas Carol.
God bless us, everyone.
Whatever.
I'm here with Chris Asker. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. Pleasure to be with you, Andy, again.
Yeah, first time on this podcast, though.
It's first time on this podcast, yeah.
But you're getting in the Christmas spirit.
Yep.
Just before we start talking about the films, you've got a few gigs DJing and playing over Christmas, yeah?
Yes, not to plug a certain pub called the Brewers Arms. But yeah, so Christmas Eve is my Christmas bonanza, so I'll be playing some Christmas songs on my usual tunes, and then I'll be DJing to finish the night off. And then we're doing a New Year's Eve indie disco, so that's a New Year's Eve party, but all the music is indie disco, so certainly a different change. It's Ipswich's only indie disco, and we'll bring it to you on New Year's Eve, so I can't wait.
Excellent. Okay, just get that mentioned, and obviously we can find your music on well, you find your music pages on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual places. Chris Asker Music.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's that out of the way. Let's talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol. Now, it's 30 years since it came out. I don't want to make you sound old, but you did see this in the cinema the first time round, yeah?
I did. I saw it several times in the cinema the first time round. Yes, I did, yeah.
Yeah, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
I guess, well, I would have been 10 at the time. So at the time, my sister was at university. She enjoyed taking me to the cinema whenever she was back. So obviously it's perfect time at Christmas. She was back. So I think I went to see it with her a couple of times, actually. Obviously my sister is a generation that remembers the Muppets much more fondly than I did at the time. And then I used to quite often go to the cinema with my mum as well. And so it's, it's a perfect family film. So I went with my mum probably a couple of times as well, actually. So
yeah.
It was probably the time when I most went to the cinema, to be honest, at that age.
Yeah. What cinema did you see in?
So that was in the Cannon in Bury St Edmunds. So it's a very, very small cinema. It's still there now. It's a bingo hall, and I believe it's still a cinema. They turned it into Bingo Hall and it came back as a cinema. It's got 2 screens. I remember the selling point for years and years until it closed down was that the screen number 1 had Dolby surround sound. Not THX.
Yeah.
It had Dolby surround sound, and the second screen, which was about the size of a living room, had mono sound in it. And they used to show adverts for like local businesses, and they even had someone who came around with ice creams in the interval.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, so there is a small cinema in Belgium. I think it might still be able to change the name of it.
Yes, I think it's now. I think it's now independently owned, and it's run kind of as an independent kind of cinema now. Yeah,
which we like. Hence the King Street podcast.
Indeed.
So, have you watched it much since then?
It's one of those films I probably revisit every Christmas. Maybe not every Christmas, but most Christmases.
So really, as you saw this a few times when it came out, you probably have seen this close to 30 times.
Possibly, yes. Possibly close to 30 times I've seen this film.
But have you seen it in the cinema since then?
I've not, no, which is why I'm very looking forward to going to see it again at King Street.
Excellent. We'll talk about the film. I mean, obviously it's a retelling of A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens novel, which has been redone loads of times. But this one seems the most fondly remembered in the last 30 years, I'd say. And the only real difference is there's Muppets in it, but it works so well. Does it stand out to you in that way? I mean, I'm guessing you watch it more than the older versions. There was the Jim Carrey animated one, which seems forgotten, the Disney one a few years ago. But this one, it has. I mean, the fact it's got a re-release for its 30th anniversary. One of my favourites that I saw in the cinema when I'd have been about the same age you saw this was Scrooged, which is still remembered well, but not to the extent of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw it out there now, quite controversial, but I do actually think that in terms of the telling of the Christmas Carol story, I think Scrooged is probably my favourite of the two. Yeah. And I've probably watched that close on 30 times as well, actually. Yeah. But for very different reasons. It's not really a true telling of it. It's a very different version. I mean, it's
moderned up.
Yeah.
Whereas this is the actual...
Yeah.
Sort of, and Scrooged, even though it was a PG, I mean, I saw it in the cinema, it's now a 12. This one you could show any age, whereas Scrooged, you probably would show it to someone sort of 12 plus, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scrooged is... I don't really watch Scrooged and 100% think about it being a Christmas Carol anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's for me, it's about the performances in it and the comedy and I guess the hijinks and everything in it, rather than that's probably has a higher peak than the story, whereas I think A Muppet Christmas Carol is arguably, in my mind, probably one of the truer tellings of the classic Dickens story, and that's obviously that comes through the fact it's got narration in it.
Yeah, by Gonzo as Charles Dickens,
indeed,
perfectly cast, to be honest with you. And that's why I think all the Muppets, they're perfect for the characters they play, and there's a few characters other than Michael Caine that are played by actors, and personally I think that might be that they just couldn't get the right fit of a Muppet for it.
Yeah, that may well be the case. I think it's the majority of the characters though who are played by actual people are his family, aren't they? Pretty much. I mean,
and him. And there's 3 versions of him.
Yeah. So it's his family and obviously his love interest in the past. I can't think that there's any other human characters other than members of his.
It's his family, isn't it?
It's just his family, isn't it?
Yeah, either through marriage or. Yeah. So that might be that they don't want to see anyone having a relationship with a Muppet.
Well, let's be honest. Let's not go Howard the Duck on this.
Yeah. That was only implied. But one thing I want to mention that on a rewatch, the casting of the sort of in his 20s Scrooge. At some point, I will accidentally say Scrooged instead of Scrooge. That always happens. Not done by CGI or no prosthetics. So it's just got an actor, probably through makeup, who looks like Michael Caine. I think does a great job.
Yes, yeah.
And this is kind of just before CGI was everything. And I think the effects, looking at that and the Ghost of Christmas Past, which is
Yes.
a ghostly like Muppet with a bit of CGI. Looks really good.
Actually, no CGI in that. I've done my research.
No CGI. It looks like
No.
this.
So it was the Muppet that was performed inside of water
Okay.
and then green screened into the plate.
Okay,
So actually,
cool.
it wasn't.
Was
It was all practical.
Was it the same? I mean, I've seen making. They said that with the ghosts, Marley, which is the two old men.
Yes.
That's done the same way, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's exactly the same technique they used in Ghostbusters.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
So no CGI at all.
No CGI, no.
Which is cool. And it was literally a couple of years later when you look at a film like, say, Waterworld, which is loads of practical effect, but there is CGI in there. And then obviously Titanic would have been like 6 years later, which
Yeah.
loads of CGI, but you wouldn't really notice.
Mm.
So I think the effects really stand out.
Yeah.
Really well paced. Because I'm thinking for little kids, it just doesn't let up. There's just laughs, songs, everything.
Yeah.
It's almost like going to a pantomime.
Yes. Yeah. I think it is. I think that's part of the reasons why I love it so much is that you have got what is a very serious story, and I will talk at length probably very soon about Michael Caine, but you've got quite a serious story and you've got some actually quite serious moments performed by the Muppets as well.
Yeah.
Certainly around the Cratchit family and.
Yeah.
But it's kind of broken up. You've got the silliness of Rizzo and Gonzo, who are kind of like the I suppose the comedy element of it, and then you've got these little parts of brilliant comedy. One thing that particularly stands out, which I will laugh at ever, and one of the funniest jokes ever, is we've got the brass band. It's such a blink and you'll miss it moment, but one of them gets hit in the face with a cymbal, and this face he pulls, and his little Muppet face when he falls down, it's just absolutely brilliant, perfectly paced. And then they throw in the songs. I think if anything, it could have done with, and obviously there are two songs that were cut out, one that was filmed and one that wasn't. But I think if anything, it kind of misses out on a trick of being more of a musical. If anything,
there was a Michael Caine song that I think was in the original cinema release, and then they cut it out.
It wasn't Michael Caine. It was his love interest. She sang a song.
She sang it. Okay.
But Michael Caine bears witness to it. But it was thought that was too traumatic for children because it's quite an emotional song.
Yeah. And I think if you look, that is on YouTube. I think that one.
It's what it was. It was in the VHS release.
Yeah.
And then it was lost to time. So in future re-releases after that, like the Blu-ray and the Disney Plus version, etc., etc., they'd lost the print for it, so they couldn't reinstate it. But I believe the special edition 2022 version and the new version Disney Plus that's being released this December does have it reinstated. Okay. So everyone can enjoy that song.
Yeah, because that's why I heard as well for the pacing of the film it was taken out. But the trouble is, things like that I think should be taken out. Well, once they're in and people have seen them, I think people notice and it's too late. When they add stuff in extended cuts and stuff, fine. It's almost, the only time they mess about with things is director's cuts.
Yeah.
But I feel once it's there and it's had that release, leave it.
Yeah.
You'll annoy people more than you will please them.
Yeah.
And it's not like this isn't a popular film and people have been like, oh, that bit's rubbish. It seems really strange to me. But I reckon the cut that will be shown in December will have that in.
From what I've understood from what Brian Henson said, that the 30th anniversary cut does have it reinstated.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the version I watched, to remind myself on this, the first Christmas film I've watched this year, apart from a terrible horror film called Silent Night, not Silent Night, Deadly Night, Silent Night. It wasn't him.
No.
And I mean, for the films, the version I watched is 85 minutes, so 95 wouldn't have made any difference. So when they say for pacing, that's really strange. But the songs in general, have you got a favourite?
I do love the Marley and Marley song.
Yeah,
I do like that. I think there's something I forget the name of the song now, but I think there's quite something touching about the duet with Tiny Tim and Kermit the Frog. I remember being blown away at the time watching it. Yeah. Even though obviously, I was 10, so I knew there were Muppets, I knew they're puppets.
What?
But I started to break it to everyone, so spoilers.
Yeah.
But the scene of them walking down the street, which obviously is done very simply, they're on rollers, and there's actually two puppeteers, one doing the feet. But I just remember being blown away. It's like...
Yeah. So one thing that still sticks to my mind is in the first Muppet film I watched, Muppets Take Manhattan, when you see them all riding the bikes. It just looks fantastic, still does. And that's kind of the sort of magic of the Muppets. We all know that they're puppets, but it's so well done. I mean, that's what Jim Henson done. You look at films like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, and still amazing 40 years later. This one's 30, but he was making movies a good decade before this. Obviously, he didn't make this, his son. It was the first film Brian Henson directed, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And one thing I think what makes it stand out for Muppets films is it's the first time, and they just kind of perfected it the first time, of getting a novel or a classic story and just redoing it with Muppets. They've since done it with they've done TV Wizard of Oz, which is okay. They've done Muppet Treasure Island, which was good, but I don't think it was anywhere as good as this, and isn't remembered as well as this. And a lot of it, so do you want to talk about Michael Caine, is he just plays it so straight, he doesn't ham it up. And there's moments in him, you look into his eyes, he's all teary. He plays it as if he is playing Scrooge in a full live action dramatic movie, and that's why it's brilliant. But he is brilliant. So anything you want to add? So I just had a big Michael Caine.
No. I think it's by far. I mean, you know what? I've seen Albert Finney. I've seen John Sims. Obviously, they're the two famous versions. But I think Michael Caine's portrayal of Scrooge is by far the best that's ever been captured on screen, and I don't say that lightly, because there is a often forgotten version with and now his name escapes me.
Kelsey Grammer.
Not with Kelsey Grammer. No, I have forgotten that Kelsey Grammer did do one. Sorry, my name escapes me. This happens all the time.
It will come back.
Patrick Stewart. Thank you, Patrick Stewart, who I think is, you know what, if an actor can bring some kind of realism to the early seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation, then he's an amazing actor. But yeah, I think I can't even imagine. I mean, I studied drama at university. I have acted in the past, and I can't imagine how difficult it must be to do such a strong, realistic, heartfelt, warm performance when all you've got to work with is staring into the cold, lidless eyes of a felt puppet and a hippie underneath him controlling him. It's like how I don't understand how an actor can do that, and he does it. And I think that's the complete difference with any other Muppet movie, is that other Muppet movies have always been very Muppet movies. They've always been, you know what, hammy and slapstick and silly, and you know that's why we love the Muppets anyway. But it's such an honest and true performance, and it's sold completely straight. I mean, he said to Brian Henson he wanted to play it as if he was playing for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and Brian Henson apparently gave him a massive hug and said, yes, that's what I want.
And it couldn't have been easier for him to take this role, because loads of big actors, Orson Welles was in the first Muppet movie, Steve Martin, Richard Pryor, comedians, but they're always cameos. The human leads in Muppet movies prior to this hadn't been big stars. He'd probably had a bit of stick in his career prior to this, around that time, for taking any role, because because he famously said he'd do things for money, right? He'd done like Jaws: The Revenge and a few bombs. And he'd often revive himself, right, with a film like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and I think it was brave of him to do it. It might have been that he wanted to do a kids' film for family reasons. A lot of actors do that, but if it didn't work, it possibly could have ruined his career, I think.
I mean, from my understanding, he requested not necessarily that role, but he requested a role in a Muppet film. Because he never got to work as a guest star on the Muppets TV show. At the time, he was a tax exile in America, so couldn't leave America. So the 2 or 3 years that it was filmed, because it was filmed obviously in London, wasn't it, the Muppet Show? But a lot of his friends appeared on it and told him how amazing it was working on it, and they really enjoyed it, and so he was kind of jealous for that. So he had approached the Henson Company and said, look, I want to do something with the Muppets, and I guess they must have thought this was the perfect
and he obviously had the confidence in it, which paid off. I was just thinking it would have been great if he'd have been on the Muppet Show and maybe spoof something like Get Carter or something. That would have been fantastic. But for me, growing up, I mean, the first Michael Caine film I remember seeing was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. A few
Yeah.
years before that, and then this, and maybe it got a lot of people of our age to watch these older films. I probably saw Escape to Victory first, to be honest. But I mean, you go back and you watch your Talent Job, and it not saying it revived his career, but it might have been like a gateway for younger fans to get into his stuff. Which is, when you think about it, for whatever reason he got into it, it was really, really good for him, really clever.
Yeah.
And I don't think any actor in a Muppet movie is when you think of the actors, like, was it Jason Segel? Is that his name? Was in the
Jason Segel, yeah.
He was more behind the scenes, but he was the star of it. You don't, and Ricky Gervais and Tina Fey in the newer one, or the most recent, they're kind of forgotten for working with the Muppets, whereas Michael Caine is remembered.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just that, it's a Christmas film, I'll stick it on because it's Christmas. Because there's hundreds of Christmas films, thousands. And this I reckon this is in so many people's top 5.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly, especially people of, I guess, our generation.
People.
I think people of the 80s and 90s. I think it's probably
there's some people between the ages of 30 and 50, really.
Yeah.
And I think this is one thing. If you are of that age and you want to take your kids to the cinema, I just feel that a lot of youngsters aren't exposed to the Muppets a lot. They don't really seem to get it. I remember when the one, it's probably 15, 20 years old now, the what I call the newer one, maybe 10 years, I don't know.
Yes, yeah.
But I can remember walking out of the cinema and a parent who'd have probably been about my age, what did you think? We didn't really, I remember the kids sort of not really liking it, which maybe because it's so different for them. And then maybe they, with the more modern Muppets, because they feel they have to, they push the humour more adult.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is a kids' film. But it's that classic story that adults will like it.
Yeah.
And I feel, I don't know, because this is Disney pushed the Muppets now. I don't think this one was made by Disney, even though they.
No, it was the Jim Henson Company. It was the first film made by the Jim Henson Company.
And then when they bought the rights, they've got it, so to speak. And the last TV series they done, just called The Muppets, was a bit like The Office. So I can get why kids wouldn't like that. But this is the one. Not saying, it's not going to make the world a better place if all kids were exposed to the Muppets, but it's not going to harm it. Do you know what I mean? Show them this. This is the one. And on the big screen, it's...
I was thinking, actually, I mean, I kind of grew up in the limbo time, I guess, of the Muppets. So, I guess the late 80s, early 90s, obviously Jim Henson was very ill. He passed away in 1990. They weren't... The Henson Company weren't really focusing on the Muppets per se, because you were bringing out films like Labyrinth, Willow with George Lucas, and so for me, I had more cultural recollection of those films, of Muppet Babies, of Fraggle Rock, of Sesame Street. Yeah,
do you remember Dinosaurs as well?
Dinosaurs, exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than the actual Muppets, because obviously the Muppets kind of disappeared for a while after about the mid-80s.
For me, the Muppets was... I vaguely remember repeats of the Muppet Show, and the films were repeated. Muppets Take Manhattan and the first Great Muppet Caper and the Muppet Movie. But not that much. I just... lucky enough to catch them, I suppose. And Sesame Street's still running to this day, isn't it? So, I think people sort of 5, 10 years older than us would be really into the Muppets, and I suppose this was the film for us that done it. Less mention about Muppets from Space, that but I just sort of had it on the background while I was researching this. I know the film quite well. I saw it, I think it must have been the 15th anniversary at the cinema. But the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, that it's kind of like a pantomime, seeing it big, the songs, you don't get distracted. That's the way to see it. And other Muppet films have got songs in it, but not to this extent. Not to this is more of a musical.
Definitely.
But then saying that, the Muppet movie from a few years ago won the Oscar for best
song. Well, to be fair, that also was a musical.
That
was a musical.
That one was more than the one after. So I don't know if there's any songs in that. The Muppets Most Wanted. But I mean, I was just trying to think what else to say about it, really. I mean, the humour I really like. I love the fact that Fozzie Bear runs a rubber chicken factory, which is so good. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's one of those that also it doesn't date because it's set in that time, whereas a lot of the other Muppets films are very 70s. Or I think the newer ones will date. They'll be in 20 years' time. It will be a bit like the equivalent of when we watch a film and everyone's got sideburns and flares.
Yeah.
But yeah, another while we're on the Muppets topic, which is what we had to talk about. Mentioned Michael Caine's one of the few human actors in it. Human actors. Can you think of a film you'd like to see remade with one cast member stays the same and the rest are all Muppets? Don't say Die Hard.
I won't say Die Hard. I nearly said Die Hard just to wind you up. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go out there with this one.
Yeah.
Just because, from a thematic point of view, I would say it has to be a film where, much like the character of Scrooge, the main character is either alienated or apart from the rest of the cast. So my choice would be my second favourite film, Goodfellas.
Okay.
Whereas you have Ray Liotta's character, because he's very much, at the end, he's obviously drawn out of the whole world. And also, it'll be funny to see, Muppet violence.
Yeah, and would Fozzie Bear be Joe Pesci?
I think Fozzie Bear would be Joe... No, Rizzo the Rat would be Joe Pesci, clearly.
Just for suddenly, the one thing I'd like to see... Alien, every character's a Muppet, apart from the cat, was played by a human.
Brilliant.
Not... what's his name from Cats?
James Corden.
Yeah, not him. Not him. Just you mentioned Scrooged. There's several. If you listen to the end of the podcast, you'll find out what other Christmas movies are being shown at King Street. Have you got any other Christmas favourites you'd recommend to people?
Scrooged. See, that's throwing me in the spotlight there. I won't say Die Hard, although I do believe it's a Christmas movie.
As I say later on in this podcast, that's not for any of us to say.
What films do I always watch around Christmas?
It's difficult being put on the spot, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I guess it's not a Christmas film, but it has the spirit of Christmas films, and I tend to watch it around that time. Is Ghostbusters 2? I know it's kind of a...
Yeah, it was released at Christmas.
It was released at Christmas, and I guess it has a New Year's theme around. Isn't it set around New Year's?
I think so. Yeah. I definitely saw it in the Christmas holidays as a kid.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to think of about 20 other brilliant films as soon as I come off this podcast.
And then very quickly, another Muppet film you recommend?
Do you know what? I am actually going to say the Jason Segel Muppet film.
Yeah, it's good. It is good.
I just think that it was daring to do it. Muppets had kind of been out of the zeitgeist for a while. I think Jason Segel's writing on it is incredible. Brett, whatever his name is, the guy from the Flight of the Conchords, who wrote the songs with Jason Segel. Yeah, the songs are incredible. Yeah. It's brilliantly performed by all the human and Muppet cast. Yeah, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the cast seemed to look like they're having fun as well.
Yeah, it just seemed like it was a good time had by all in the making of it.
Yeah, and lots of cameos. I like the Muppet cameos. So yeah, well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Hope you come back another time. We'll find another
I will look
film.
Forward to it.
Probably not one you've seen as many times.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, the next one we're doing, which I can't say, because they're bringing back VHS Fridays,
right,
is a film you might be a big fan of.
Oh,
I can't say it yet, just in case it doesn't happen. But so thank you very much, and
my pleasure.
Have a good festive season.
Indeed, same to you.
Thank you. Okay, James is with us. Sorry about the background noise. You're going to talk about one of the Christmas films you're showing. One I've not even heard of.
Amazing.
So I know very...
Amazing that you never heard of it, I must say.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not completely surprised you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But I am a little surprised that you had never even heard of it.
It might be one when I watch the trailer, it looks familiar. That's what I can say.
Yeah.
But do you want to tell us all a bit about it?
Okay, so the movie is Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. And we are showing it from the 9th of December to the 15th. So, you've got a few days days to choose from when you want to see it, you know. So the movie itself is a Finnish film, so, you know, a bit of subtitles in there, but it's not completely in Finnish. There's also a lot of English in there as well. So the story is that there is a company that are pretending to be of science nature, going to blow up or drill into this mound on a mountain for science reasons. But really what it is that they believe that Father Christmas, Santa Claus, is down there.
Ooh.
And that they're going to, I guess, use him for whatever reasons, to make money, whatever, make toys that make, you know, so they can make money and stuff like this. So it's a secret. So they've got, you know, there is a setup so that it's in the middle, very much limited access. There's a little town nearby where the locals live. This is right up in Lapland, so it's very far north Finland. It's all icy, cold looking, hard people. You get the gist.
Yeah.
And there's a boy and his friend who sneak in to the facility and hear about what's going on, and one of the boys believes in Santa and the other one doesn't, and the one who believes goes home and he reads up loads of books on the legend of Santa Claus, and we tend to see through looking at the books that Santa Claus isn't all nice.
Oh no.
That there's a long folklore history of children who are naughty getting their comeuppance.
Okay.
So yeah, there's all of that element to it where you have, you know, child adventure, you know, discovering things, adults who don't really believe, but turns out that doesn't matter anyway because seeing is believing, kind of thing. So there's a lot going on. It's very action orientated. It's a little gory as well, so there's a bit horror in there, and most importantly there's a lot of comedy.
Okay.
But not comedy in the sense of your Hollywood comedy. Very Scandinavian, very dry, very deadpan. Some people might not even notice it as being comedy. But for me personally, I love it. I absolutely love it.
So is it, you said it's got bits of horror, is it a family film?
No. It's not a family film in the sense of young kids, no. I would definitely say, especially for your British audiences, or whatever, Western American audiences, because this is something I read a lot about in reviews in America, mostly, that there were just some parents were just appalled by this film because it has stuff in it that for them you just wouldn't put in a Hollywood. You're not going to have in a Hollywood movie, even if it is horror orientated, because it has children in it. There's some bits where you'd be like, okay, let's just say there is some full frontal nudity in the film.
Okay.
Right? And it's not played as sexual or anything like that, so that's why it's not, you know, weird or anything in that sense. And it's not even noticed in the movie, like as in the characters don't pay any attention to it. They are just afraid of other things, not of the fact that there's nudity, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people could look at that and be really kind of weirded out by that culturally. But I think from where it's from, that to them it's just, that's funny.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's, how to explain, if you're into comedy but not broad, basically.
No, yeah.
Not your broad.
Not broad, sort of, you know.
Not Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way, yeah, falling over, slapsticky stuff. Even though, like I say, it is an action movie, so there is quite a fair bit of. And these are tough people, so they got guns. They're not frightened of getting a bit violent, a bit sort of, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they're fighters, right? So these are, you know, I love it because it's very much a. I wouldn't say a manly film in the sense of American Arnie, but it's like manly, like God. These are tough people who live in the middle of nowhere, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and take no nonsense kind of people. But they're also quite witty and funny, but in that very much European, way. So some people might not particularly find that amusing. But if you do like that sort of thing, and if you are into just anything Scandinavian, you know, media whether it be like television, because that's very popular, like a lot of the sort of detective shows and things like that. It has that element, not the detective element necessarily, but the feel, the kind of darkness sort of to it, you know, a bit. It's a very strange one. I can't really think of another film that's completely, you know, like you put it right next to another one, sort of.
So if it was a double bill, you wouldn't know what to put it on with.
Well, no, not offhand, but just anything that's kind of, you know, dark fantasy, really. Because I mean, ultimately, that is its main thing: is that it's a fantasy film, it's a dark film, it has some horror elements to it because it's dark fantasy, and it's very humorous. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's one of my favourite Christmas films, and it certainly is a Christmas film. It has. See, I was wanting to talk to really about this, about what makes a Christmas film, and this certainly for me does, in the sense of the European traditions of Old Saint Nick and all of that.
Yeah,
this is very much about that element. This isn't a Christmas movie about family getting together, though that is slightly in there. Family work. This is very much family working together to solve a problem, not family coming together because it's Christmas and we're all going to sit around the table and open our presents and eat turkey, sort of thing. This is, you know, this is hard-working people who are an element of the film is also capitalism, right? That is plays a very big part, sort of in the background, but very much noticeable. There's lots of, I can say, very dry jokes about making money and about VAT stuff like this, right? So there's that, because these are guys, right? So they, like I say, they live in the middle of nowhere in Lapland, and they aren't Sami people who are culturally the people of Lapland, right? They're kind of descendants of, so they still follow the reindeer, but they use the reindeer to sell the meat to internationally to make money. That's how they make money, and all the reindeer are gone mysteriously, right? And so they can't make money, and they need to find out why all their reindeer are gone. You know, when I say gone, they're dead, right? Oh no! Yeah, and they figure, well, it's because of the people in the mountain. They've done something, or working on the mountain. They've allowed wolves to get onto the property, onto their own land, and so that's why they end up getting involved and knowing what's going on. That's how the adults end up knowing what's going on. The kid already knows, or he's figuring it out. Yeah.
So it's not just randomly set at Christmas and calling itself a Christmas film.
No,
that's how I define it. It's got to have the themes of Christmas, or actually Christmas affects the plot a lot.
Well, Santa Claus is the reason why it's happening at this time of year.
I think I mean, a lot of people seem to think two things for Christmas films, and it's not up to me to define what's a Christmas film.
No,
but personally, I'd be like, it doesn't have to just be set at Christmas.
No.
And it doesn't have to be a kids' film. A lot of people seem to think...
Well, indeed. I completely agree with that element, that it doesn't have to be a kids' film. And not just that. Maybe... Well, because I think there probably are quite a few sort of awful Hallmark movies that aren't really for kids. They're for middle-aged women during the day, you know, who are just watching television. You know, kids would hate those movies. Yeah. You know, but...
That's why they often throw a dog in them.
Yeah, right.
so kids...
But like... something being a bit scary should also be for children, and though I say that this necessarily isn't for young children, I'd say from the age of 12, right, no problem.
Well, that's right. I mean,
maybe even 10, maybe depending, you know, but obviously not little kids, because like I say, it's not, again, I'm not interested in the nudity. It's there is some gore in there, you know, which is quite gruesome.
I mean, and kids should be exposed to some level of scary stuff, I think. I mean, look at fairy tales, you know, and grim tales, you know, they're scary, and that sounds like this is...
I came into this with already lots of things I wanted to talk about, and I've completely forgotten them, as I always do, and that was one of the first things I wanted to mention, was that this is a Grimm's fairy tale in the modern era. That is completely what this is.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's completely that, you know, it doesn't hold back on it wanting to be scary, or it's saying, you know, it's Grimm fairy tales are tough, you know, they're not, sugar-coated or anything like that, and neither's this movie. But at the same time, the director is very clever in putting other elements in, so it balances it out. So it's not just all scare.
Yeah.
You know.
Would you compare it to, say, Pan's Labyrinth, something like that?
Well, I would, in the sense of its thematics, yeah, but its tone, no.
Okay.
Tone is definitely different.
Yeah.
But
what certificate is it?
It's a 15.
15. Okay, so yeah, mid to late teenagers.
Yeah, I mean legally, yeah. But like I say, I think even younger, even a little younger, could relate to it as well, because it does have, again, clever with the direction and the tone of the film. It is told from the point of view of the child, who I would say is about probably 11, 12 years old. I don't think it's mentioned how old he is, but I think he's probably about that.
Okay.
And I'd say, because it's from his point of view, his perspective, that I'd say kids of his age, I think would be, in my opinion anyway, would be fine with this film.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's just another thing I want to mention is often films that are told from the point of view of a kid aren't necessarily aimed at kids. It's that we can all...
Yeah.
Older people can relate to it because we've lived through that age.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of Stephen King stuff, for example,
Yeah.
the characters in it are younger than the audience.
Sure.
But I feel I've got a friend who doesn't like that, who's like, I'm older, why is it always about younger people? And I'm like, well, because we've lived through it. And more people can relate to it than, say, a film... Say, like what was shown last month, Living, mainly about an older guy. Mm-hmm. So more of the older audience would go and see it. A lot of younger people might be put off that film because of that, not realising actually that two of the characters are in their early 20s, and I've lived through that, so I could relate to them a lot more than the older guy. Yeah,
sure. I mean, Living is also about a man looking back. A big element of it is him remembering where he comes from in his past and his childhood. So in a way, the classic Christmas story, Christmas Carol, is looking back. Sure, absolutely.
Which I've just talked about on the podcast. The Muppet version is showing.
Yes, we do have Muppet's Christmas Carol, and I mean, I would say I'm pretty sure I said 15 because of that is what I remembered it being, and yes, it still is a 15. Yeah. Just check that. I do find that a little bit disappointing. I think a 12A, I understand completely why people would perhaps say no to that, but for me personally, just because of the themes that are in there, it really is a movie that I think isn't just for 15, teenage and up. That I think someone coming up to their teens would appreciate it as well. Yeah. Especially, it is a male orientated film. In fact, I can't really think of any female characters in it that aren't, that are not like speaking characters. It very much is. So I'd say, like, for boys especially, like a 12-year-old boy, I think would, apart from obviously maybe perhaps a little put off by there being subtitles.
Yes, I was about to say yes.
Apart from that, but the story is so simple to, apart from all of the humour, which is clever, there is a very simple story on the surface, which, and like I say, it does turn into really an action-y film, and all of that is very, you could follow along very much what was going on without needing necessarily to read the subtitles, because like I say, half of it is in English, because a lot of the characters, because we're talking about an international company here who are working on the mountain, so there's a lot of people speaking English. And that's also very important to the plot, because we're talking about outsiders and people capitalist people coming to somewhere else and taking something from the people. There's all those elements are in the film as well. So I could not recommend this highly enough. This is certainly one of my favourite films of its type. A Christmas. This is a Christmas film. I can't. Probably of its time, of the 21st century.
What year was it made?
2010.
Okay, so it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
But it's becoming like a cult Christmas favourite, would you say?
Oh, I think so, yeah. I mean, the director himself has only made 2 films since. He comes from commercials, which is, I think, amazing in a way, because you don't really get that very much within the film, that he comes from advertising and stuff like that. I mean, maybe a little bit in there in the sort of the way it's slightly shot, but it's not like a music video or something like that, where you'd think of someone who was, you know, doing some more promo work.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a film like, say, Highlander.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very
exactly that kind of thing. Or a film that I really like as well, not that I don't like Highlander, but The Hunger, which was made by Tony Scott's first film. He, as well as his brother Ridley, they both came from advertising. And yeah, you can tell. Yeah. So even though they make lovely films to look at, they are very much about the visuals. Yeah. So yeah, there's loads in this film that aren't that. There's loads that are very much interesting, intricate stuff, but still enough surfacey that you don't have to know or be interested in all those kind of things to enjoy the movie. Yeah.
Are you a fan of the director's other films?
I haven't seen them. There's one called he's made two, like I say, and I think there's another one coming out, or is being worked on. So he did a film called Big Game, which again is an action. I think all of his films are action orientated, and I think that's in English, or maybe English and Finnish as well, because I think it might not even be set in Finland. It might be in America. Samuel Jackson's in it.
I've seen it.
Oh, you've seen it? There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know the director's work then?
Yeah. When you said that, I was like, is that the Samuel Jackson? Yeah.
So what is that? What is that film? Because I
don't remember much about it. It got quite a big release. And it is an action. He's in the jungle or something. Right. I don't really remember.
That's right.
I'm now regretting telling you. I think
that's all right. Fine. But yeah, so he did that one, and he's got a new one coming out, which I think's already come out in other countries, but it's coming out over here, I think, in January, called Immortal, which I think might be a kind of again action sort of thrillery type film. I think it might have like set in Nazi period or something. I'm not sure. I read a little bit about it, so he makes these kind of movies that are sort of action films, and maybe have the others, I'm sure, might have a bit of, again, dry comedy put in them. I'm not sure, but yeah. So this is the only film of his that I've seen. His name is, I'm going to really screw this up. Here we go. Jalmari Helander, I think. It sounds about right.
I was hoping for that build-up you'd have gone John Smith.
No. Well, maybe that. No. So yeah, I don't know, going to go over it again and again, just how much I appreciate this movie. And I would recommend it to, like I say, to anybody of 12 and up, in my opinion, even though it's a 15. So yes, please don't come along to the movie. Maybe watch it at home.
Yeah,
if you're 12.
They said on the podcast I could see it.
Yeah, no, 15 at our cinema.
They also said I could watch RoboCop. No. Okay, so that's your your personal main recommendation for over the Christmas period. Yeah,
I would say so, as a film that very few people. For fewer people would have seen than any of the others. Certainly, like if you were just going to see one, and you had seen the others, go see that one. Yeah. But again, it's all taste really, because we got a mixture of films.
So you've got several Christmas films and Die Hard.
And Die Hard, yes. It's amazing. The debate still rages on. I had someone yesterday saying at work, a colleague saying it is a Christmas film. And say it came out in the summer. Yeah, she was like, it doesn't matter. It's set in Christmas. Like, no.
Once upon a time in the late 90s, someone who didn't like Christmas was asked their favourite Christmas film, and as a joke or to be bitter, they said Die Hard. Yeah, because it's set there, and this snowballed. But if people want to enjoy it at Christmas, fine, it's good. Yeah, it's bringing more money in.
Sure, I mean, the film coming. Not against showing it at Christmas, not against showing it at any time of year. Yeah. Ultimately, it
is a film I like, but I feel I personally been put off it a bit by you can buy Christmas decorations with Bruce Willis on and stuff, and it shouldn't put me off.
I'm sure he's been in another Christmas movie. I mean, actually, something that is meant to be a Christmas film. I'm sure there's one. There's got to be in there. Yeah. So I don't know why won't people settle on that?
Yeah. It's for people want that different type of film to say it's a Christmas film.
But, I mean, you could go with Lethal Weapon. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
You know,
Batman Returns.
Batman Returns. I mean, these are absolutely fine films as well.
Yeah. So what else are you showing? I mean, we're not going to get on the
right.
I've been debating this.
So
we
are showing Die Hard, and you can come and please come and see that.
Yeah.
We have we show anime fairly regularly, and we have a Christmas orientated anime film called Tokyo Godfathers, which I'm sadly say I don't know too much about, other than the premise, as far as I'm aware, is of 3 maybe homeless men who find a little baby, and do what they can to bring it back to its parents.
Okay.
And that is the premise.
I find that any films that contain a baby and 3 men are usually pretty funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a comedy.
I think it's probably got some light-hearted comedy in there, I'm sure. I'm pretty certain it is a family movie. Well, it is 12A, so yeah, you know, that sort of thing. Probably got a little grown up. I mean, we're talking about, I think, people who are, you know, living on the streets of Tokyo kind of thing, finding a baby. So there might be some, you know, down and outer kind of elements to it.
Yeah. Is that a new movie? Or
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. And you're showing some classics as well.
Yeah. So we got. Was it? I forget the names of them now.
Is it the Bishop's Wife?
The Bishop's Wife, which, you know, I have not seen, but it is a
remade in the 90s with Denzel Washington.
Yeah,
The Preacher's Wife.
That's the one. Yeah.
I watched the Bishop's Wife. It was during COVID, so maybe 2 years ago over Christmas for the first time, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, brilliant!
One I do want to see on the big screen.
Well, brilliant. Well, we will be showing that on the main screen, and It's a Wonderful Life as well will also be shown on the main screen.
Which is becoming a bit of a tradition.
Has been a tradition for many years. In the space when we used to be the IFT before we were King Street, it was every year.
Yeah.
And it did well. It was all, but that's why they kept it going. Now we are, as King Street, a different cinema in the same space. It is a classic. It is generally considered, I suppose, to be the main Christmas movie of all time. That's not a, you know, Dickens or something.
Yeah.
American Christmas movie.
Yeah, and it is one that I first saw it probably 20 years ago. And I watch it I don't watch it every year, but I watch it a lot, and I still enjoy it. But I do strongly say, if you haven't seen it, and there's a lot of people who still haven't, put off for whatever reason, probably because of people like me going on about it. But if you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest you do.
I mean, it's funny, it's sad, it's depressing, and then it's light-hearted and nice and happy at the end. There you go.
Yeah,
it's got all of that.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
But it is
everyone knows the end.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have seen it. It's been used and parodied so many times.
It's one of those films that everybody goes on about it, and it generally is a good film, and don't be put off. For the same reason, a lot of people haven't seen Citizen Kane, for example.
Sure, which we are also, I believe, showing.
Did not know that.
Did you know that I'm not sure if we are or not, but I have a feeling. No, we are not showing Casablanca, which is another one. Yeah. Which is another one which people, I'm sure, are put off from seeing because
I saw that for the first time.
There we go.
A year or so ago.
So,
and it's been spoofed to death.
Yeah.
And so many of the scenes I recognise, some of it I didn't even realise was from Casablanca.
Yeah, sure.
But I really enjoyed it.
I mean, that's a film I saw as a kid. I've seen it, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times throughout my life. It is a great film, but it is also just done to death as far as parodied and used in commercials and sayings from it, which aren't even correct half the time as well. But
Play it once more, Samuel. But we should really wrap things up now, I think. So do come over the Christmas period to King Street.
Indeed.
Is there any other films that we've forgotten to mention?
What, that are Christmas movies, or
we'll stick with the Christmas, or anything you strongly recommend that is on this month.
Bones and All looks good. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I haven't seen that one yet. No, that I've spoken to a few people who have, and mainly really positive.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, the trailer looks good. I don't really know. Apart from the trailer, that's all I know.
I don't know anything about it.
Right.
I've seen the trailer, but I didn't.
But I'm looking forward to it.
That's what someone described it to me as like an adult Twilight in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, from the themes within it, it certainly is adult.
Yeah, it's an 18. That one.
Yeah. So if you're an adult, would you like something a little bit scary and a little bit also romantic, I think?
Yeah.
That one looks like a good choice.
And if you were a fan of Twilight, you probably would be an adult now.
Yeah, but you'd be right ready for Bones and All.
Yeah.
And we're bringing back Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, if you want to check that one out again, which, did fairly well last time around. Looks like it's selling pretty well again.
That to me, I did see that, is like the Boxing Day feet up, you've eaten too much film.
Yeah.
Film, not
Yeah, it's perfect for the Christmas period.
Yeah.
But starting this month, though, I would like to mention just quickly, we are showing The Menu with Ray Fiennes and others. Big ensemble piece. Looks like a good fun thriller if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, nothing I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Good things I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Good high score on Letterboxd and stuff for that one. And that sort of came out of nowhere. And seems to be doing the business.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, these films with a good quality cast. And please come along to our final showings of Triangle of Sadness.
Oh yeah, but this will probably go out after you.
Well, there we go. If it goes out today, we're showing it tomorrow. So.
This won't go out today because I mentioned that the beginning of the episode. We spoke about Muppet Christmas Carol. I haven't recorded that yet.
Okay.
So, but
we're learning lots on this podcast, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Should we? The podcast will be back in January, and it looks like we'll be bringing back the VH. I won't say what, but the VH.
Yes, VHS Fridays. It's still going to be called that, so I'm pretty sure we will still be having them on Fridays. Yeah. So expect great old movies you've probably seen if you remember the old VHSs. Yeah, and I'll be focusing the main part of each podcast on that movie. Yeah, mainly because I've probably seen it and talk about it. That's right. It's very hard to talk about films I haven't seen. Yeah. But thanks for listening. Find us on the Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. Rate us highly if you can. It helps spread the word. I'm told. That's right. So thank you very much. And you have yourselves a merry little Christmas. And a Happy New Year.